verse 14, Beresheit. And Elohim, V'yomer Elohim, or Elohim, obviously, I don't want to get into the whole why I'm saying Elohim when it's written Elohim. That's a topic for a different time. Let there be luminaries in the expanse of the heavens, and let them separate between the day and the night, and they shall be signs for the appointed seasons and for the days and the years. So here we're discussing the stars, the sun and the moon, the stars. Now it says let the luminaries be there. It doesn't say, it doesn't give them each specific names. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of stars, other suns, and not just in our solar system, but in the entire universe is massive. But just within our solar system, the most important, obviously, is the sun, which is the closest star to us, and to the moon, which and this is kind of how we understand time. But who is this for? There's no human beings been born. And what about the first 3 days? So do the first 3 days follow in the aspect of time as we understand it? Because on day 4 is only when time, as we understand it, gets created, the seasons and the days and the years. And it shall be for the luminaries in the expanse of the heavens to shed light upon the earth. Okay, so we're still saying the luminaries. Now there's a famous midrash that the sun and the moon were created at equal size, and the moon got jealous, so Hashem shrank the moon, but then gave the moon the stars as its compensation. Because when you look at the moon, you see that the stars appear close to it. And obviously, those stars are not close to the moon at all. They're light years away, literally. The closest star to our star is the Alpha Centauri, which is many light years away. I mean, we don't have this, like Judaism doesn't get into these concepts of the distances and how long light travels. But the sun, for example, takes about 8 minutes to get to us because the sun's relatively close to us compared to the next star, which I mentioned is Alpha Centauri, which is the closest sun to us, but is very far away. Now, when it talks about the sun and the moon being the same size and different sizes, everybody like, look, the sun's 400 times bigger than the earth, than the moon. Like, how could you possibly say that the sun and the moon were ever the same size? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, we know that our sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. But from our perspective, from a human being, which is the Torah is directed towards human beings, right? It is anthrocentric, right? It is centered on the human being's experience with Hashem and how we understand Hashem and how we relate to Hashem, not just Jews, but human beings in general. From our perspective, the actual ratio, this is, I have to thank Natan Eliezer, who lives in Petah Tikva. May he be blessed and live a long life. He wrote many, many books about this. So this idea came from him, and I want to give him credit, but it's such a beautiful idea, but it's also actually true, is that the ratio distance, actual distance between the earth and the moon, and then the moon to the sun is about the same. So the ratio distance. So that's why we have an eclipse. We have an eclipse of the moon, and sometimes we have a solar eclipse. And we have, the earth eclipses the sun, and sometimes the moon eclipses the sun. And we can't see the sun because the sun is totally covered by the moon. But how is that possible if the sun is 400 times bigger than, how does the eclipse work? I mean, how is it possible that the disk of the moon covers almost completely the disk of the sun during an eclipse when the sun is 400 times bigger? Because from our perspective, they're the same. From our perspective, because of the ratio distance, they appear to be the same size. Again, they appear to be the same size, but obviously physically they're not the same size. But the Torah actually says that they're the same size, and we always said that they're the same size. And then we say that our midrashim come along and say that the moon was shrank. I mean, the moon really didn't shrink. The moon actually is smaller. But anyways, that's how we understood all this. A lot of times, because we didn't have telescopes and we didn't have Copernicus and around, when the midrashim were written, and when the Meforshim were first writing their, Rashi didn't have a telescope in the early, but everybody received their Masorah, right? There was a Masorah, there was tradition about a lot of these concepts, about the stars and how many planets. Like it says in the Talmud, there were 7 planets, and we now know there's 8. That's not so far off because we don't count Pluto anymore. Now that even the scientists took off Pluto, right? So now so that kind of throws up the whole thinking about the constellations and the mazolot. If you believe in the mazolot and you're into the horoscope, which is Judaism says you're not supposed to be into the horoscope because it doesn't make any sense because it's based on that there's 7 planets and not 9 planets, and really there's only 8 planets. So you see right away that you can't be into the horoscopes. And Judaism says we're above the stars and we're above the mazolot because we believe in Hashem. Now, anyhow, all that aside, see, there's a lot you could say about Beresheit, and I've gotten kind of off the topic. Verse 16, and God made the two great luminaries, the great luminary to rule the day and the lesser luminary to rule the night and the stars. Now, of course, when he's talking about the greater luminary that rules the day, we're talking about the sun. And the luminary that rules the night is the moon. Now, the moon doesn't only rule the night, by the way. I mean, meaning you can only see it at night because the sun, it doesn't produce its own light. It reflects the light of the sun. And of course, sometimes it's invisible and sometimes it's cloudy. So, but it also rules the tides of water. The moon has other things that it's sort of quote unquote in charge of. And Judaism has a whole prayer of the new moon. And we attach ourselves very much mystically to the moon and theologically to the moon. And God made the two great luminaries, the great luminary to rule the day and the lesser luminary to rule the night and the stars. And God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to shed light upon the earth. But wait, weren't they already there? So he made them, so God made them and then he placed them like they were somewhere else in the universe and God like dragged them to their location. I don't know. These are hard concepts, but if you're reading it the way I'm reading it, these are questions that should just kind of come to your mind. Okay, and what is the role? So the roles is to shed light upon the earth because the moon does do that when it's brighter, when it's more full. To rule over the day and over the night, which we already said that in 16, but we're repeating it, and to separate between the light and between the darkness. And God saw that it was good. Now we already had a separation of light and darkness back on the first day, on day one. And it was evening, it was morning of fourth day. I'm wondering, you know what? I should probably stop this video.